We've all experienced it before, whether something happens and we kind of spiral downwards, or we just wake up feeling in a bit of a rut. We all know what it's like to feel like we're in a bit of a slump and we're struggling to get out of it. We wish we could power through, get motivated, stick to our habits, have that burst of energy, and get back to our goals. But as you well know, it's not that easy to just flip a switch and get back to a place where you feel excited when you just don't. It feels like the harder you try to motivate yourself, the deeper you sink, and with each and every passing day, the guilt just builds and builds for not getting it together, for avoiding the habits that you know you should be doing when you could be making progress on your goals. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm definitely speaking from experience here, and actually making this video right now is a part of my efforts to get out of my own little slump, which has resulted in me not making a video in like a month and a half. Oops. But as I've been working on getting out of the slump myself, I've also been paying attention to what's actually helping me do that. And what better way to make a comeback video than to share those findings with you? By the way, if you're new here, my name is Elena and I make videos supposedly every single week about authentic life design, ranging from self-care to productivity to self-awareness, habits, discipline, all that good stuff, with a few lifestyle vlogs sprinkled in here and there. Without further ado, let's talk about the 5 tips I have for you today to help you get out of a slump, bounce back, and get back to your habits. Tip number 1 is compassion, compassion, compassion. I've included this tip first because even if you don't watch the rest of this video, this one tip is probably going to have the biggest effect on helping you get out of that slump. And not only that, but it helps you manage the experience of being one in the first place. When we're in these slumps, there's often a part of us somewhere that's not really happy with our behavior. We can feel all sorts of things, from guilt to shame to a sense of letting other people down. And there's also a lot of pressure to bounce back as quick as possible. And often the longer the slump lasts, the louder this voice in your head becomes. And you may have noticed that that voice inside your head isn't actually being very helpful. In fact, all of this pressure and berating yourself only makes you feel worse, making it harder for you to actually do the things that you want or need to be doing. Sometimes we can even be so used to being hard on ourselves that self-compassion feels like it's harmful instead of actually helpful, which it is. As I like to say, if being hard on yourself worked, it would have worked by now. What self-compassion looks like for you in that moment will of course be personal to your needs. But as an example, for me, self-compassion during my slump looked like releasing the pressure to bounce back by a certain time, saying no to things that drained my energy or weren't in alignment for me in the moment, and reminding myself that my mental and emotional well-being comes before my productivity. Always. Tip number 2 is re-evaluating your expectations. Something I've personally noticed is that my slumps tend to happen when I'm kind of in a bit of a transition period in life. It could be a moment where my old habits are no longer really serving me in the way they once did, but my new habits have yet to be identified and established. I find this to be especially true, and this tends to happen more often if you consider yourself, like me, to be multi-passionate in some way. If you like to have a lot of things going on, you like to be juggling different projects or ideas or even work that you're doing, when you've got more to juggle, it's likely that you're going to have to rebalance your life a little more often. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, this presents you with the opportunity to reevaluate not only your priorities, but also the expectations that you're placing on yourself in this season of life. As much as it would be great to operate at 100% in all areas of your life all the time, the reality is that sometimes life is going to be asking for a little bit more time, energy, or attention in a certain area of your life than others during different seasons. So when you find yourself in a slump, it's helpful to ask yourself what season you find yourself in right now. Maybe you need to scale back work to focus on a relationship more. Maybe you need to go out less on weekends and prioritize your health. Maybe a friend needs some extra support right now, and that's really important to you. The key here is to remember that in order to effectively prioritize something, you also have to deprioritize other things. So where can you actually lower your expectations for yourself so that you can give the adequate amount of time, energy, and attention to your top priorities right now? This of course connects back to number 1, because as you can imagine, having some compassion for yourself as you do that is key. Tip number 3 is to cultivate your environment. I think we often forget what a huge impact our environment and our surroundings can have on us. I know that I'm definitely greatly impacted by the space that I live and work in, and while not everyone might feel it to the extent that I do, I still think it's a really important reminder that some of us can use once in a while. One thing that I did to help myself get out of my little slump recently was to write something of a self-care list, just things that I thought would make me feel better in the moment. And imagine my surprise when like a solid 50% of the list just had to do with cleaning. just cleaning up my space. Things like vacuuming, doing some laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, decluttering a space that I had been meaning to get to for months. Now, this may not be my usual definition of self-care, but when you're in a slump, creating a pleasing environment can be the first step to helping yourself feel better. And of course, it can go beyond that. Maybe you want to get a new plant or some new candles, or you want to hang a new piece of art somewhere. However you decide to interpret cultivating your environment, do what is best for you so that your environment is supporting the way that you want to live. We're bringing it back to compassion because it's going to play a big role in tip number 4 as well, which is to take baby steps. It may be tempting to tell yourself that tomorrow morning or Monday morning you're going to wake up a new person, all refreshed, and you're going to tackle all the things that you are currently not doing. And hey, if inspiration strikes and that is truly the momentum that you're feeling, then great, ride that wave. But you may have noticed that it doesn't always really work out that way. The morning comes, you're still groggy and tired, so we hit snooze and we tell ourselves we'll try again tomorrow. When you're in a slump, it's easy for just normal everyday things to feel really big and overwhelming, and so the smaller steps you can take, the better. If the thought of cleaning the whole kitchen is too much, can you just wipe down a counter or unload the dishwasher? If going to the gym is too much, can you just go for a walk outside or do an at-home yoga class? If doing an at-home yoga class is too much, can you take 10 minutes just to do a few stretches? You get the gist. No step is too small, so break it down as much as you need to. Moving on to tip number 5. Once you've reevaluated those expectations, cultivated your environment, and taken a baby step or two, take a moment to give yourself a pat on the back and celebrate those wins. When you're in a slump, it really is all about celebrating the effort you're making, not just the results. This positive reinforcement is what's going to help those little baby steps turn into bigger and bigger steps. Celebrating the little wins, as well as that compassion that we talked about earlier, is going to be what helps that snowball effect gather and gather until suddenly you find yourself out of the slump. One final note. All this being said, please keep in mind that I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just sharing things that have helped me when I was in a bit of a rut. While I think we've all kind of experienced little slumps here and there at some point, there is a difference between being in a slump versus, actually experiencing depression. So please make sure you're getting the mental health support you need throughout this as well. One of the things that I did in my slump was also to make an appointment with my therapist, who I hadn't seen in a while, and it was so helpful. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, there's another video I think you would enjoy called The Self-Discipline Hack That Changed My Life. I'll link it above somewhere here for you to watch next. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you again, hopefully next week. Bye.